plus are starting their own businesses, and isn't that fantastic? They're taking their dreams and making them a reality. However, self-doubt and limiting beliefs combined with trying to balance life and work can sometimes lead to stress and anxiety and the possibility of giving up before we even get started. I'm delighted to introduce my guest today, Shelly Merchant, who is going to talk about helping women who are working from home in their own business to develop a working structure that works for them. Shelly describes herself as a card-carrying member of the sandwich generation. She's a dynamic 50-plus woman who is running not one but 3 businesses with the help of her husband, including her recently launched coaching business, The New Entrepreneurial Woman, Productivity and Mindset for the Midlife Entrepreneur. A workaholic, Shelly loves nothing more than curling up with her laptop and a good planner. But when she's not working, you can find her watching a corny disaster movie or reading trashy novels, and she makes no apologies for that. So join Shelly and I in conversation now, and let's get started. Well, welcome, Shelly, and thank you so much for joining me today in Conversations, and congratulations on the launch of your new business, which we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Thank you so much for having me, and it is so nice to finally meet you.
It is. We've known each other for a few years, but we haven't actually heard each other speak. We've always done it online, so it's lovely to have you. So from your bio, I can see that you're one busy lady with 3 businesses, and you've recently launched another, The New Entrepreneurial Woman. So can you just give us a little bit of an idea of what that's about and how it can help women who are starting their business or who are working from home in their own business?
Well, what I do is I focus on the productivity and the mindset issues that women our age, they're starting solo businesses face. Specifically, what I do is I help women uncover those skills and talents and innate gifts that they have that sometimes they don't even realize they have. You know, when you've got an innate gift for something, you a lot of times feel like everybody can do that. And that's not always true. I think we a lot of times sell ourselves short as to what our skills are. But then specifically, I help the women analyze their habits, their schedules, all those things there so that we can help them develop a system to achieve their goals. First of all, we break down the goals, turn them into very bite-sized pieces so that they can be tasks that we can proceed with, and then develop a productivity plan to help move forward.
Because it can be very overwhelming when you're starting up something and you have an idea, but sometimes you know, you might be challenged in different ways in getting it off the ground, and you just feel overwhelmed and you're ready to give up. So, you know, that's good to have that sort of support there, and I think that that's really, really great because I was reading in a 2018 Forbes report stated that 40% of new entrepreneurs were women, and many of those were women over 50. So go women over 50, I say. Why do you think that is, that many women, especially over 50, are starting their own business or looking to start their own business?
Well, I guess the short answer would be just because we can.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably a lot of different reasons. I think it can be as simple as a desire to create something for ourselves. It can be the desire to create an income, a desire to finally be our own boss and not be at the whims of someone else telling us what to do. Maybe we need to prove something to ourselves or to somebody else. I think a lot of times, though, we sometimes have some kind of a passion or an interest that either we have had all through our lives or that maybe has been developed recently that we want to pursue and turn that into not just a business, but something that we love doing. In other words, make work something that feels more like play. The thing I find interesting, though, is that women seem to get there, it seems like, in 2 different ways. That's something I've noticed, is that there's one type of woman who kind of comes at it from maybe a little bit of reluctance. perhaps she's gotten to a certain point and realized, okay, the kids are gone and the house is a little more empty. And, I've always kind of been interested in this, but I'm not sure. And so she kind of comes in perhaps maybe through a side door kind of quietly and kind of, sticks her head in and starts out slowly. And then there's the other type of woman who just comes and she just blows the front door in, kicks it down because there's something that has always been inside of her wanting to come out. And finally it's her turn.
And that's a good point too, because as you said, it's probably for women over 50, it's a great time because we're empty nesters. We're looking at something that's going to fill the void, and it's our time, as you say. We've been there for everyone else, being the caregiver and the mother and all those sort of things. And we might have had a career, but now's the time to go with, as you said, doing something that we really love and enjoy, which is important, I think.
Absolutely.
Now, fear of change, that can be a big blocker for us, but I've been talking to you and you suggest that it can be exciting. So what's your take on that? How, because most of us go, oh, I don't want to change. I know what I'm doing. I've got the fear of the unknown. So I was interested in your thoughts on how it can be an exciting experience.
Well, you've really just kind of hit the nail on the head. Most of us have been taught to view change as something that is scary. It's uncertain, it's unknown, we don't know what's going to happen. And we have given that a negative, a negative feeling. If we reframe that a little bit, instead of, telling ourselves, I'm scared, I'm apprehensive, I don't know what's happening, we can turn that around a little bit. Those same emotions, that the feeling in the pit of the stomach, instead of thinking I'm apprehensive, if we tell ourselves I'm anticipating something that's fixing to happen, we've turned that emotion from something negative and scary, and anticipation is positive. Usually we're anticipating something good that's fixing to happen. And so sometimes it's just kind of a minor tweak in the way we frame the words that we use. Because if we approach it as a scary thing, it does have a very negative feeling towards us, and that I think kind of hinks us up. But if we'll look at it as I'm anticipating this happening, we get that sense of excitement.
Yes, which brings me to my next question, that we've had previous conversations that, mindset and self-doubt are two issues that women struggle with, generally, but especially if they're trying to start a business. So can you give some advice on ways to develop a more positive mindset that will take us forward? Because I think you hit it on the head then when you were saying about approaching, the way you look at change and the way we look at challenges. It's all, you can turn it into a positive.
Well, I think, you said earlier that a lot of times we have not been encouraged to perhaps take the risk and to step out and do those kind of things. I know I wasn't very traditional upbringing, and, girls were, be seen and not heard and be a little more submissive and all that. And I think at our age, sometimes what gives us the mindset issues is we're really having to overcome some cultural and gender, stereotypical attitudes that people have. But another thing too is we don't have role models frequently. I know in my own, I've looked around and I don't see anybody doing the same thing I'm doing. I have had to find peers online, because in real life, we don't see women who have started businesses or started working online. I think that is something that is still pretty rare, and I think that we find our peers online perhaps more than in real life. But I think something that's really important is to find a biz buddy.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yes, a biz buddy, or maybe a mastermind group or something that you can discuss. And it's like anything. I know even when you're exercising, if you've got a running buddy or a walking buddy, you're going to be more inclined to be more committed, and you feel as if you have made that commitment to them, so you've got to turn up, and it makes you more accountable. So that's a great idea about a biz buddy.
Oh, a biz buddy, and like you said, the mastermind and accountability group. I have met some of the nicest people online in groups, and I think those mastermind groups where we meet other people that understand what we're doing. In real life, some of our friends, if we talk about what we're doing, you kind of get that glazed look a little bit. They don't understand because it's not within their realm of experience. But when you find other people online that, even if they're not doing the exact same things, they understand that working online is a real job and that
Mm.
it's a real business, something that you're definitely committed to. Those people are lifesavers, and they're some just really great people to make for friends. So
Yeah, and I agree with that, because you talk to your circle of friends, and they do look at you sometimes and think, well, why would you want to be doing that? Now, that's not to say that you don't have your supportive ones as well. I mean, there's people there, but you do need what I call cheerleaders, and people
yes.
that are going to help you, because um, it's a you're really doing it on your own. So if you've got that support network, be it people who are um, supporting you and cheering you on, or people that you can learn from or talk to, and just, sometimes just to brainstorm ideas with, I think is helpful, because you're thinking about something and then you might start overthinking it. Whereas if you put it out there and have a bit of a discussion with someone, that can sometimes help you move forward.
It does. It makes you feel less isolated, first off. But then it also, again, gives you a totally different set of perspective. I've got a biz buddy, and there's times I'll run something past her and she sees something totally different than I would have seen. And it is just so helpful to get that different perspective, that different viewpoint. And I've always thought that, two or three or four heads are better than one.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, those sort of strategies or resources that we're talking about, they can be applied to our normal life as well. It can
Absolutely.
transfer over to there. So we hear a lot about, balancing work life and finding that balance. It's another one of those sort of buzzwords that have come into play over the last few years. But it is difficult when you're running your own business, and especially if you're doing it from home, I think, to really have that segregation between work and life. What are your tips? Because you talk about helping people to structure their work and their life. So what are some tips to finding that healthy balance?
Well, I think the first thing that you have to do is you have to realize that, first of all, I don't believe in balance. I think there is continual juggling back and forth. But I think you have to look at the entirety of your life, your roles, your obligations, all the things. We're not pies, okay? We don't get to be divided up equally into little pieces here, that we look holistically at what's going on. And then we can look at our days and our weeks to form our schedules. And I really think that part of it is drawing very distinct boundaries. I call it looking for your time pockets and things to work in. And once you've identified the areas and the times that, okay, I've got 2 or 3 hours here to work, that you set that aside as a work time. And that you then, identify a time pocket that, okay, this is family time. This is when I work on housework, or this is when I work on cooking dinner. And I encourage people to take a look at your day, think about your ideal day, and then how you're going to structure it. And there's nothing magical about a 9 to 5 schedule. I don't work a 9 to 5 schedule. I work a few hours. I take a couple hours off. I work a few more hours. I take some time off. That way I can fit in things like, breakfast with my husband and doing some laundry and making sure the house doesn't totally go to pot. But I think that you need to really draw the distinct lines, the boundaries around the boxes, and then have your priorities set so that you know specifically when you sit down to work for a little period of time, these are the few tasks that I need to get done. First of all, you'll still feel a sense of accomplishment then when you do get that done. And that way, when you take a break and you go work on something else, or you spend time with family or friends, you don't have that sense of, oh, I should be working. Because, when you work at home, it's real easy for it to never end. And I'm tend to
Yeah,
be a workaholic.
yeah.
It's real easy for it to never end, and for your to-do list to be 9 miles long, and then you feel guilty if you do something else because there was still work to do. But if you've identified your little time boxes, then you can check it off and then enjoy your time.
Yeah, that is a great tip, because I know I'm one that I have to remind myself to get up and walk away from the computer. I'll get engrossed in something and I could be there
Mhm.
for hours. And it's also not healthy to be sitting for too
No.
long. So you've got to get up
Yeah.
and walk around. But I
Yeah.
find too, I've still got to tweak it, but I tend to get up very early. And my
Mhm.
husband, and I go to bed early, and my
Mhm.
husband's the opposite. So he's a late riser, and
Okay.
I find that I can get a couple of hours work done before he gets up, and then I don't feel quite so guilty about having a cup of coffee with him, and I'm giving him time. And then, and also I think your point about scheduling your time so that you might do some work and then go and do something else without feeling guilty. I think that's really important, because I think sometimes you can lose your concentration as well if you're focusing so much for too long. You need to have those breaks as well, physically as well as mentally.
Yeah, you get to the point of diminishing returns. Just because
Mm,
you're sitting at the computer and working on something for 5 or 6 hours doesn't mean that you are equally as productive towards the end as you were at the beginning. So, to give ourselves that physical and mental break, first of all, it gives room for creativity to come in. A lot of times I notice that's when I get the best ideas, is when I'm doing something different. But it helps the fatigue. And like you said, we need to get up and we need to move. We need to do other things. And like I said, it's funny, we may be married to the same man because we're the same way. I get up and work a few hours in the morning before he gets up, but then I take time off with him and we have breakfast and do some things. And I feel like I've already gotten in, 3 or 4 hours worth of work. So I don't worry about it. So yeah, there's nothing special about that 9 to 5 particular schedule. The whole point is at this stage is to make it work for us and with the rest of our life.
yeah, and I think that's the key too. And we've really, I think if you're working for yourself, um, you do have the control of your time and the power of time. It's just that you need to be able to identify and plan, and then you'll keep on top of everything. But it's important, I think, because otherwise people burn out, and then they don't really get off the ground because
Yeah.
they've just put too much into it too soon.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips for women who are thinking about, they might have an idea, or they're thinking about starting a business? Do you have any, tips that could help them either decide to move forward, or how they should approach it?
Well, I think the first thing is perhaps do a little exploring, uh, examine what your goals are. It's very easy, I think, sometimes to, you see all this stuff online about start this business, and I think just people need to know that it's not an overnight thing. It's not necessarily an easy thing, despite what some people either might tell you or what it might look like when you're looking on the outside. And to examine, what is it that I want? What is it that I want to build? What are my particular goals? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
To examine those things first. And then I heard something that I thought was extremely interesting, and it talked about to rediscover your inner 9-year-old, because at about the age of 9 years old that we haven't gotten to the point where we have totally abandoned some of those things that were kind of innate in us, our interests, our talents, our passions, our enthusiasm for life, that we may have abandoned as we went into the teen years and other pressures and things began to come on us. So I think to kind of look back at those things, and you have to look at the whole picture together, but go in with eyes open, and don't expect that something's going to be quick and fast, because it won't.
No. And I think you're right too. Keeping that why am I doing this, front and center is very important, because there'll be times when you will say to yourself, why am I doing this? And then, and then you
Yeah.
come back to that and you go, yep, that is why I'm doing it. And that's what gives you the courage and the strength to keep going forward. So,
Well, and you know, something that I find too is when I get to the point that I'm asking myself, why am I doing this? That is a very clear signal that it is time to take a break and do something else. Doesn't mean, you know, set it aside for 6 months, not by a long shot. For me, sometimes it may just be 30 minutes to get up and go do something else. Go read a book for a little bit, go move the laundry, go walk around the block, whatever it be. But take that time, because I think that is your inner signal telling you you need a break, and then you can get refocused again and get your second wind and get motivated and excited about it again. But I think we really need to listen to that inner voice.
yes, yeah. No, that's great advice. So we've really covered some good topics today and helpful. As I said, it could even transgress over to our life as well as our business life. And so before we finish, I wanted to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Well, I hope this doesn't sound selfish, but to me, it means finally being excited and thrilled because it is finally my turn. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but to me, it is, it's a sense of looking back on the things that I've done. You know, I've raised my kids, they're good adults. I'm thrilled with all of those things. But there were things that I set aside happily, and I chose to do so, and wouldn't change it. But now at this age, it's like, wow, okay, there are still years left to do some of those things that I set aside, and I am, like I said, I have known some women that approached this age and really were sad, depressed, not excited. But to me, I think it is the absolute best time because it is full speed ahead and the world is our oyster. So I said, I love this age. I think it's great.
Well, I do too. And I mean, I'll be 63 next month, and I'm still not thinking about slowing down, or I just am excited by life. And I've started these new projects that I'm working on with the YouTube channel and a podcast, and it's really, really exciting, and it keeps me feeling alive as well. And I think that if you are feeling good about yourself and fulfilling your needs, it makes you a better person for everybody else, doesn't it?
I agree. And you know what? The other thing is, I think it keeps us young.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
I think it really does. That when we are mentally engaged, and you know, you can't do these kind of things without learning new things. And so I always tell myself that's the best brain insurance I can have to make sure that my brain doesn't atrophy.
Yeah. No, well, look, that's been really great to chat to you, Shelley. Do you have any last tips or pieces of advice that you want to leave before we finish up for today?
Well, I have something that has kind of become my motto recently, that I tell people, and that when I'm visiting with them, is, you know, sometimes when you're starting something like this, it can be very overwhelming, and you have kind of a nebulous idea, this overall goal. But you look at it and you think, how on earth am I going to do this? I don't know how, I don't have the skills. And it can be very daunting. And I always tell people this, and this is my motto. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. And now we've all heard that saying, but I think what we forget sometimes is that, yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day. But if we'll take a step back and think about it, Rome was built with a plan, and that the plan was carried out and executed brick at a time, to build a wall and then to build the buildings, and that our own personal Rome is something that we work on every day. And so I always tell people, figure out what your Rome is, and then every day go lay some bricks, and eventually you get there. That's my motto these days.
Love that. We've had some good points. Bring out our inner 9-year-old. Laying the bricks and remembering that, you know, just there was a plan, but you know, nothing happens overnight, and just getting those pockets of time planned out that we can use them effectively. So thank you so much for joining me today, Shelley. It's been such a pleasure to have you, and And I'd encourage everyone to pop over to visit Shelly at her website, and I'll be putting all the links in the comments section below so that everyone's got the details of it. Pop over and say hello to Shelly and find out more about how you can, just find that balance and structure in and enjoyment in starting your business. And it's just been lovely chatting to you, and I've really enjoyed it. So I hope that you'll come on the show again and share some more of your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I would happily come back anytime, Sue. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks everyone for joining us today for Conversations with Women Living Well After 50. Please feel free to leave me a like or share the video with someone who you think might benefit from the topic of today, and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a conversation. In the meantime, enjoy your day, embrace life, and make the most of every day. Bye for now.